Welcome to NACTV Reads the News. My name is Cathy McGrath, and I'm one of many volunteers that help create programming for our station. NACTV can be seen on MTS Channel 30 or 1030, Westman Cable Channel 17, Bell Satellite Channel 592, or online at nactv.tv. These programs are made possible by our volunteers, staff, advertisers, as well as donations made by you, the viewers. If you are enjoying your NACTV experience, please consider supporting us by either donation or volunteering. You can contact our office at 204-476-2639 or at nactv@wcgwave.ca. And today we're reading Friday, March 31st, 2023 issue of the Neepawa Banner and Press. And here on the front page, Neepawa to get another new school by Ken Waddell. The province announces vocational high school plan for BPSD. The Manitoba government has announced plans to build 9 new schools over the next 4 years, and Neepawa appears to be one of the communities that will benefit from it. On Friday, March 24th, Education and Early Childhood Learning Minister Wayne Owasco and Consumer Protection and Government Services Minister James Teetsma made the unexpected announcement at the grand opening event in Winnipeg at Bison Run School. With the construction of 3 more new schools, the Manitoba government will exceed its 2019 commitment to build 20 schools in 10 years and complete the work 2 years ahead of schedule. Owasco said, "The 9 publicly funded, owned, and operated new schools have been determined on a priority basis and will be constructed and operational by September 2027. One of those schools announced is a grade 9 to 12 vocational school and child care center in the Beautiful Plains School Division. Although the exact location was not announced at the Winnipeg event, the Banner and Press has learned that it will be slated for Neepawa." A big need for trades training regionally. Beautiful Plains School Division Superintendent Jason Young told the Banner and Press this is welcome news. The current Neepawa schools will be comfortable full by this fall. The 9 temporary classrooms will be full, as we are adding about 10 students per month to the Neepawa schools. The temporary classrooms were needed even after the last school expansion. Young indicated that the new school has been part of the BPSD capital plan for a couple of years. He said, "There's a big need for trades training and regionally, and there is a big gap between Crocus and the Dauphin schools. With the new hospital and with all the other demands for trades training, we need this new school. It will need 16 acres of land so we can have proper playing fields and green space, so it will look like we want a community to look." Young noted that the current gymnasiums are the entertainment hub of the community right now with all the activities. The gyms are currently full of high school sports and the 20-plus team Filipino Basketball League. School grades will be reallocated again. Young said HMK may become K to 3. The current Neepawa Middle School might be 4 to 6, and the current NASC may become 7 to 8 and 9 to 12 in the new facility. Neepawa had their Neepawa Middle School built in 2019, but are already over capacity. Town officials believe Neepawa's population is over 6,000 people, as compared to about 3,200 12 years ago. The town of Neepawa is heavily into planning sewer, water, and other infrastructure to accommodate the new hospital and the Assiniboine Community College LPN Training Center that is scheduled to go into the former RCMP building in Neepawa. That planning and budgeting will only be further stretched with the proposed new school. Neepawa Mayor Brian Headley noted to the Neepawa Banner and Press that he had heard the new school was a possibility, but about Friday's announcement he said, "That's exciting, that's big news." And also here on our front page, Welcome Home Home Hardware. Newly constructed building center in Neepawa opens to the public. And pictured are Michelle Gerard with her staff and new co-owners Alan and Echo Chen inside the new hardware building center in Neepawa by Owen Devereaux. customers have had their first look at the brand new space for Neepawa's Home Hardware Building Center. The 20,000 square foot store and attached lumber storage facility opened for business on Saturday, March 25th. The new building is situated on 3.5 acres of land at 142 Main Street West, close to the junction of the Yellowhead Highway and Veterans Way. Lots of work behind the scenes. Michelle Gerard, the co-owner and operator of the Neepawa Home Hardware, spoke with the Banner and Press just before the location opened its doors to the public. She said she's very proud of what the staff have been able to accomplish over the past few weeks in preparing the new space. More space, more options at the Home Hardware building, and pictured is the exterior of the building. Start to finish, from the arrival of shelving for merchandise to today, was just 52 days. We have accomplished a lot, and the staff have been phenomenal, said Gerard. I've been planning for this for a long time, for years. So walking around here and just seeing how the building has turned out, I am so thrilled. Gerard was also thankful to all the trades and builders who were involved in keeping the project as close to schedule as possible. The new Home Hardware building in Neepawa is now the largest of its kind in all of rural Westman. Gerard said that the size of the location will allow them to sell a more diverse amount of home and building supplies, something their customers have been hoping for. She added she couldn't wait for the community to see the space. Just so excited for everyone to see the final product and see what we can do here for the customer. All the different products we can offer. And I think the town is excited too. Everywhere I go, people have been asking, when are you opening the new store? What are you going to have? And I think everybody just needs to come see it for themselves. We're really looking forward to being here and serving the community. The past weekend was a soft opening for the business, meaning it is fully operational, but there was no grand opening ceremony that took place. A special event of that nature will be planned for a little later in the spring, once the weather is a little more cooperative. The ownership group of Neepawa Home Hardware in Neepawa consists of Michelle Gerard as the primary operator of the business, Daryl Gerard, as well as Alan and Echo Chen, and Dave and Jessica Adet, who are also partners in its ownership. The new building is nearly double the size of the old space, which was at 268 Hamilton Street. Due to the larger space, the number of employees has increased from 14 to 22, 19 full-time and 3 part-time. And here, Looking Back, by Casper Warren. 1973, Howden Elevator gone after 70 years. And in the picture, in 1973, after 70 years of standing north of Neepawa, the Howden Elevator was torn down. The big photo, the remnants of Howden Elevator after the structure was torn down. And in the inset, the Howden Elevator in its early days. The elevator would go on to becoming a flourishing business in its prime. 125 years ago, 1898, Purple Ridge. Farmers are complaining of the immense quantity of snow now piled up and on breakup is anxiously being looked for, especially by those who are short of feed. Their name is Legion. Hay is a scarce commodity in Neepawa and sells readily at $9 and $10 per ton. 100 years ago, 1923. For some time past, it has been the opinion of many that some form of incorporation should be obtained for the reputed village of Arden, the east half of Section 13, 15, 14. The resident electors of the village vote on incorporation on Saturday, April 7th by ballot. 75 years ago, 1948. Congratulations to Bert and Dempsey Allen of Ryden Mountain, who won first prize in the regional contest of the National Barley Contest for 1947. The prize consisted of $160 and 10 bushels of Montcalm barley. 50 years ago, 1973. The Howden Grain Elevator, which was situated about 5 miles north of Neepawa for the past 70 years, has been torn down. From the very beginning in 1903, it was just a railway siding, though at one time a school, church, station, and the elevator operator's residence were in the vicinity. Ever since its beginning, it has been a landmark in the area. It could be seen for miles, and many people over the years have been directed to their destination by reference to its relationship to Howden Elevator. The elevator was built by Ogilvy Company, and for several years in the early days was a part-time operation managed by a number of different individuals who stayed only for a year or two. The demise of the elevator will recall many memories to some of the old-timers. Men like Goodwin Kilburn, who hauled grain there ever since it started, and Fred Coulter, who thought of it as his grain center for 50 years, and many others of the community. The school has gone, the church has gone, the residence has gone, and now the elevator is gone. All that remains of a landmark of years is a bit of cement and a lot of memories. 20 years ago, 2003, a former POW is spearheading a drive to erect a war memorial in the village of Brookdale. Bill Jones, who fought in World War II before being taken a prisoner of war, hopes to have the memorial in place by fall. Jones said the project has taken on a greater urgency since he recently survived a bout of cancer. As well, he said only 2 of the men who fought in World War II are still living in Brookdale. Jones said that while he and his wife have uncovered 120 names of those from the Brookdale area who fought for Canada, it's possible some names may have been missed. In addition, he said he's asking the municipality to donate land near the community center for the memorial. And Home Buddies by Rita Friesen. What's in a name? Good name in man and woman, dear my lord, is the immediate jewel of their souls. Who steals my purse steals trash. 'Tis something nothing, 'twas mine. 'Tis his, and has been slave to thousands. But he that felches from me my good name robs me of that which not enriches him, and makes me poor indeed. And that's a quote from William Shakespeare's Othello. This past few weeks, I've had opportunity to reflect on the power of having a good name, a trustworthy name. A good name has very little to do with the words by which you are addressed. I happen to be Rita Taves Friesen, and being honest, there is yet one other name by which I was, for a very short while, legally known. It was, in my world at that time, not a particularly good name. It did not open doors for me. It closed them rather forcibly. It was not mine for long. I grew up in a district that was part English heritage and part Mennonite, about half and half. We had some teachers that favored students with the non-Mennonite name, though often we excelled academically and athletically. Within our social groups, there was a divide, a cultural divide, so too often our circle included only same people. Our loss. My parents were hardworking, progressive, first in the area to have television, and education-minded, as were most of their peers. Somehow I bridged the gap and formed healthy friendships with most of my classmates, equally comfortable with those with Mennonite names and heritage, and those with English names and heritage. My parents' reputation for paying bills, treating all fairly, and common decency opened doors through which I could safely walk and prove my own worth. When we moved from southern Manitoba to this area, the word spread that we were a pretty religious family, actually returning thanks for a meal and not swearing. The good name we gifted our children also allowed them opportunity to be judged on their own merits. Not that I have ever been perfect and guilt-free. What we've had is the courage to own our mistakes, apologize when and where needed, and walk on. So where I'm going with this musing? Within the last 2 weeks, there have been several occasions when I have been granted leeway in legal procedures. I know all the safety checks for business are in place because someone somewhere abused privilege. In the one instance, there was a signature that should have been obtained before a transaction could be completed. One of the staff gently asked my name and then asked if I worked with whites. With a smile, I assured her that yes, I preside at funerals. She then offered to have me complete the transaction and bring the required paperwork the next day. Thank you. That made my day so much easier and pleasant. Quoting Proverbs 22:1, a good name is more desirable than good riches. To be esteemed is better than silver or gold. Giving thanks for the good name heritage, it is my prayer that everyone be granted the same grace. And then we have thumbs up and thumbs down. Thumbs up to all those who take the time and energy to donate blood. You never know how important it is until someone you love can't live without it. From Lynn Ranger in Neepawa. 3 weeks of thumbs down to Westman's tediously slow technical support in repairing Neepawa's NACTV Channel 17, as well as several other channels their public is paying for. From Ann Nielsen in Neepawa. Thumbs up to the rural municipalities that see the purpose of ridging snow in the fields to save lives in snow plowing. The trees have all been removed, and it leaves the snow to be deposited mostly on the roads. What a lot of snow put on roads and visibility limited in blowing snow. Remember the years when trees were grown in the fields and they made a permanent snow fence? How times have changed, and not for the better. By Lillian Barcelou in Neepawa. And Helen's Kitchen. I'm not going to read the recipes, but she does have some information on satisfying soup. Soup is said to be as old as the history of cooking. The earliest archaeological evidence for this consumption of soup dates back to 6000 BC, and it was hippopotamus soup. With the development of metal and clay containers to use for cooking, soup became an integral part of people's diet. Throughout the Middle Ages, soup was a flexible and inexpensive food for most people during the many food shortages during this era. Soup was drunk from a bowl, and pieces of vegetable meat and bread were fished out with their fingers. In the mid-16th century, large, stiff-laced collars called ruffs began the style for both men and women of the upper class. These ruffs around their neck made drinking soup from bowls difficult, and from then on, spoons were used to eat their soup. The development of the spoon to eat your soup meant that soup could be heartier with less broth. During the 1700s, French vendors on the streets sold soups as restoratives to treat physical exhaustion. One enterprising Parisian opened up a shop where his customers could sit down and eat his restoring soups. The word restaurant, meaning to restore, as these soups were called, became associated with calling other eating establishments restaurants. The 1800s brought advancements to soups, with canned and dehydrated soups becoming available. In 1897, Dr. John Dorrance, a chemist at the Camel Soups Company, developed condensed soup. The can of soup is doubled in volume by adding a can full of water or milk. Cooking got easier for the busy wife and the bachelors alike. Soup is a dish that is enjoyed in practically every country of the world, and they provide filling, nourishing food. Each country's soups vary according to the cooking and ingredients available in that country. Today's soup recipes continue to serve as a satisfying and nutritious way to restore your body. And she does have a couple of soup recipes there. Recognizing an unhealthy relationship. Your Listening Ear by Delcy Martin. No one gets into a relationship thinking that they will end up in an unhealthy relationship. When we choose our partners, we choose them for their positive qualities, because everyone has positive qualities and negative qualities. And we tend to either overlook or minimize their negative qualities. This is part of the natural way we build attachments with our romantic partners. There are many reasons that relationships can turn unhealthy, but no matter the reason, if your relationship feels like it's spiraling out of control, it's not your fault and there is help. The kinds of unhealthy relationships are in a continuum which ends with intimate partner violence. Not all unhealthy relationships get to the point of intimate violence. When we are able to recognize the signs of an unhealthy relationship, getting help or getting out makes the difference. In general, unhealthy relationships have trouble with authentic and respectful communication. Maybe one individual is seeking connection with anyone but their partner. Maybe you feel like you must hide your true self away from your partner. You are made to feel like your opinion doesn't matter and that you are undeserving of respect. Maybe you are living under lives in complete parallel. These are all signs that you need to have a hard look at your relationship and seek help. Intimate partner violence affects everyone regardless of age, gender, education, socioeconomic status, ethnicity, or location. It is characterized by the abuser having a need for power and control. An abuser will keep their victim isolated from friends and family and wants to know where they are and who they are always with. An abuser will call you names, belittle you, put you down, or threaten you, even if they say it's just a joke. Your needs and boundaries are not respected, and the abuser is concerned only about themselves. Intimate partner violence is not only characterized by physical violence, but it also includes emotional, verbal, sexual, and financial violence. If you know someone who is in an unhealthy relationship and want to show that you care, here are some of the ways you can help. Avoid telling a person who is being abused that they have to do something. They have their power taken from them daily by their abuser. This is a way of taking away more. Encourage them to develop a safety plan in case of an emergency. Guides for protection planning can be found online. Be the first listener that you can be and as patient as possible. It can take a very long time for someone to be ready to leave an unhealthy relationship. Only offer support that you feel safe and comfortable giving. Be clear from the beginning what kind of support you can offer. Avoid making negative comments about the abuser. You want this time to be solely about your loved one. Don't confront the abusive person. This could put the victim at greater risk. Do remind your loved one that this is not their fault and no one is deserving of abuse. You or your loved ones can reach out to the Manitoba Domestic Violence Crisis Line at 1-877-977-0007. If you recognize anything from this article in your own relationship, I invite you to reflect further on what your relationship needs. Seek out help from someone you trust. And most of all, stay safe. And rural outlook. Westbourne residents and businesses speak out about province's road project by Michael Bloom. A look at the design elements for the proposed road work set for Westbourne. It's pretty tiny. I don't think you can see it, but editor's note, this article has been reprinted with permission from management of Golden West Broadcasting Portage Online. The article in its original format can be found at www.portageonline.com. Westbourne residents and business owners are concerned about how the impacts that a provincial overhaul of its entry into town will affect them. Suregrove Farm Services is located in the spot where the new entrance is planned to be constructed in May. Caitlin Davey is the company's sales agronomist and says the main route will go directly in front of their office. They're implementing parallel parking, says Davey. Suregrove wasn't built on the main drag for a reason. We unload trucks into our shed that's there. We have customers pulling up with their Super Bees before they go down to our other site. Where is the room going to be? When customers come, if employees all have the parallel parking, where are the customers going to be parking? She weighs in on how the Suregrove site has also been the location where parents have been dropping off their children for the school bus to pick them up. We had the flood last year and pretty much every year just down the road here where the school bus could go down, notes Davey. It can't cross the water over the road, so the school bus was using space right in front of our office because it's a central point in town. It's not a busy street as it is, and it's a good place for all parents to meet with their kids. So that's where the bus was dropping the kids off. She notes, Suregrove was okay with that. Davey explains what transpired in discussions with Manitoba Transportation and Infrastructure. The concern is the safety of the children there, adds Davey. When our manager had approached MTI back in July about the situation at the time, MTI had said that there was a resolution already in place. At that time, we had no say in it. They were going to put curbs up in front of our office where our parking is. That's where we park our square, our water truck, and our heavy equipment. How are we going to park it now? Where are we going to park it now with those curbs there? But at that time, they told us they had no say in it because there was a resolution already in place, which, in fact, there wasn't, we found out later. Because there was already a resolution in place, we negotiated because we had to for the bare minimum of what we needed and wanted. Resident Patrick Callan moved to the community 3 years ago from Alberta and posed many questions to Council and MTI. He says he feels the Council is behind the wishes of the community and is doing the best it can to help. I believe that the MTI's hands are tied from what they're telling us at the point, says Callan. We're a small community that believes that our safety is not being considered, that our rural municipality is not being fully looked at to support our future growth or development. But I believe what Council is behind us. We hope that they're able to do something to maybe delay this so that we can look at other safety or viable options. Callan notes MTI is informing the community that nothing can be done at this point to change the plans. The contractors have already been awarded. The plans have been stamped by engineers. They're good to go. They're ready to start in the beginning of May. Council has assured us that they're going to take it to the minister and hopefully move forward, and we can make some changes before that happens. He adds MTI explained that this was the first discussed in 2014 and passed. I believe that it was passed and approved in June of last year, but I can't confirm that either way, says Callan. It was faulted by the previous council and by MTI that nobody approached the community and the residents of our community to proceed. The time is now to plan ahead and welcome the future. Neepawa establishes 2023 to 2026 Strategic Plan by Owen Devereaux. A new multi-year strategic plan, 2023 to 2026, has been developed by the town of Neepawa and consists of 5 priorities. Neepawa has laid out its priorities for the near future with the passing of its new strategic plan. The document was given final approval during the council meeting on Tuesday, March 21st. Mayor Brian Headley said this framework will provide direction for the municipal government over the next 4 years. As one of Manitoba's fastest growing communities, the time is now to plan ahead and welcome the future. We need to imagine what the town will look like, how it will operate, how it will grow, and how business will flourish, said Headley. The 5 priorities, the strategic plan, which can be found on the Town of Neepawa's website, outlines 5 priorities. Those priorities, in basic terms, are as follows. Well-balanced growth, managing the consistent community growth in Neepawa with specific attention to the ongoing development of fiscally responsible infrastructure. Sustainability and stewardship, specifically making sure Neepawa can continue to provide a safe and reliable water supply. As well, create strategies that take into account the environmental and economic vulnerability of municipal lands. Economic stability and prosperity, the creation and improvement of the regional partnerships to help attract, retain, and expand industrial, commercial, and business development. Fiscal responsibility, integrate responsible financial controls with a focus on finding alternative revenue sources outside of the traditional tax base. And 5th, vibrant, safe, and healthy community, meeting the needs of the community while also promoting healthy living. In his elaboration on the document, Headley noted that the strategic plan can be used to help serve to guide our budgets, action plans, programs, and policies. He also noted that as the town evolves, it will be important to measure progress and revisit the plan to ensure that it exists as a living document. The full visual presentation of the strategic plan can be seen on the Town of Neepawa's website. Former Neepawa resident honored at Juno Awards, Jewel Castleman named Music Counts Teacher of the Year for 2023. And pictured left, Jewel Castleman, Music Counts Teacher of the Year Award winner. She has carried out an extensive musical education career spanning 34 years. Right, Castleman, as she appeared in a local yearbook titled 76 Seasons. Castleman was a junior at the time the photo was taken. By Casper Warren. A Winnipeg woman was honored with a prestigious award earlier this month. Jewel Castleman, formerly from Neepawa, was declared the winner of the 2023 Music Counts Teacher of the Year Award during a live broadcast of the Junos. I am honored and elated to be elected as the 2023 Music Counts Teacher of the Year. Thank you to my family and my students who inspired me to teach every year, and to all of my colleagues and administrators who share my belief in the importance of music education for elementary age students, Castleman said in a media release. Giving students the opportunity to enhance their communication skills, overcome barriers, and learn new skills through music is an honor. Music Counts is Canada's leading music and education charity, and had chosen Castleman for her successful advocacy for music to be added to kindergarten programming at several schools in Winnipeg area, helping elementary-age children build a foundation of musical knowledge, and sitting on several committees that promote diversity, inclusivity, and equity. But that's not all. Music Counts also acknowledged several other items in her 34-year-long career, such as her collaboration with the Winnipeg Symphony Orchestra, decade-long involvement as a board member of the Manitoba ORF chapter, and successful application for the Music Counts Band Aid Program grant in 2013, which was used to purchase ORF instruments for Lakewood School. Since the purchase of the aforementioned instruments, said Music Counts, the program has flourished since then, with a generation of students from both their instruments and Castleman's dedicated instruction. With such a proficient career, this award win is all the sweeter, as Castleman will be retiring from teaching at the end of the year. That makes this distinction especially wonderful, Castleman enthused. Castleman has been recognized for her dedication in the past, receiving the Morna Juno Award for Excellence in Music Education in Manitoba in 2014, and the Michael J. Proudfoot Award for Choral Excellence from the Winnipeg Music Festival in 2019, and prior nominations for the Music Counts Teacher of the Year Award in 2019, 2020, and 2022. As part of Castleman's 2023 award win, she is also receiving $10,000 cash prize, a grant for Lakewood School through the Music Counts Band-Aid program, and a Juno Award statuette. And Nurses Info Session packs the Legion. Large group gathers to learn about diploma programs set for Neepawa by Owen Devereaux. And just over 100 people were in attendance for an information session related to the one-time nursing diploma program planned for Neepawa in January of 2024. It was standing room only at the Royal Canadian Legion Branch 23 in Neepawa on Wednesday, March 23rd. The reason it was packed to near capacity was related to the new information being shared in connection to the highly anticipated practical nursing diploma program planned for the community in January of 2024. Representatives with the Assiniboine Community College, ACC, Prairie Mountain Health, Neepawa Settlement Services, and the town of Neepawa were all on hand to answer any questions those interested had on how to apply to the course. The one-time 25-student practical nursing diploma program was announced back in February by the province and is planned for the former RCMP building located at 239 Mill Street. After a brief overview of the admission requirements, as well as guidance on how to acquire those mandatory benchmarks for the program, the discussion was opened up to the public. Some of the questions they asked included clarification on the basic educational and English language minimums needed to apply and how to get said minimums. Details on how already acquired education from the Philippines in nursing might factor into the program acceptance. General costs to get certification in items such as CPR and criminal record check, and how to apply to the program if all requirements have been met. The nursing program's application process is underway, as applications for the Neepawa site are being accepted online at the ACC website. And pool and campground rate hikes have been approved by Owen Devereaux. There will be a change to the fees associated to using the swimming pool and campground sites in Neepawa this summer. On Tuesday, March 21st, Neepawa Town Council approved an increase to the prices for the upcoming year. For the swimming pool, there will be a 5% rate hike to general entry and a 7% rise to the cost for swim lessons. This amount of increase is in line with what's been seen in other communities across Western Manitoba. The swim lesson fees for 2023, listed on the Town of Neepawa website, state that preschool and level 1 to 5 classes will be $70 and level 6 to 10 classes will be $75. The pool is scheduled to reopen for the season on Monday, June 5th. As for the Riverbend Campground, its full-service seasonal fee will be increased from $650 to $750. Daily and weekly rates at the site were not announced. And today we have the Farmers Advocate. The Manitoba Beef Producers President, a look forward at Manitoba's beef industry. And pictured is the 2023-2024 Manitoba Beef Producers Board of Directors from all the districts. And above, Manitoba Beef Producers President Matthew Atkinson. With the 44th Manitoba Beef Producers, MBP, annual general meeting now complete, and in reflecting back upon the past few years, we optimistically look ahead. It was great to get back in person and to get to see so many folks again. As so often happens at events like these, it is the one-on-one side conversations where you gain so much information and get to know new friends. I think that the Manitoba Beef Producers staff and organizing committee did a great job putting it all together. After a few years of virtual AGMs, it takes a lot more effort to restart that first function from the ground up. Favorable times ahead. With better feed supplies going on into this winter, more agreeable weather for feeding cattle, and added efficiencies at the farm level born out of necessity in the past few years, there certainly seems to be some reduced stress levels. Add to that decent calf prices and the prediction that they may be around for at least another year or two, and it's just the recipe that our industry needs. I sincerely hope this is the case and we can see favorable times ahead. My time as a board member of the Manitoba Beef Producers has been a busy one, with producers facing a lot of challenges. Reflecting back on this from a very optimistic angle, we all prove just how resilient we are. But I think we are tired of being asked to prove that. I hope for all our sakes that we are returning to a time of more of whatever normal is. Some profitability and, from a representative perspective as a director and now your president, to spend less time mitigating crisis and being able to move forward proactively on some more issues and opportunities. Taking pride in what we do. One of the great things to come out of tough times is that we learn to work well together and rely on each other's support to overcome issues. I feel that this is especially true of the board and staff at MBP. It truly is a group that have become such great friends but will not hesitate to challenge each other or disagree on issues. I thank them for having the faith in me to lead the organization going forward. To past President Tyler Fulton especially, who did an excellent job as president and who leaves some very big shoes to fill. I thank him for his support and mentorship, both past and in the future. I am so fortunate to have such great individuals on our board that treat the roles that they are in with the respect they deserve. We all, as directors, dedicate a great deal of time to the MBP board and all the other association seats that go along with it. Time that could be put towards our own farms and ranches. While many of the benefits that it brings to producers are not always immediately apparent, I do believe that we all do this advocacy work for the betterment of the industry and take pride in what we do. As we move forward towards spring, and hopefully a lot better spring than last year, many of us will be calving and making forward seeding decisions. While we can lament about the rate of inflation eating away at calf profits, we can look forward to opportunities that come from cattle production getting some of the recognition that we deserve. There is a great deal of programs now available to offset some of the seeding cost on forages, better ensure much of our feed production, and ensure our profitability. There is still much room for improvement on these fronts, but these tools have come a long way, and we continue to seek improvements to make them even more responsive to beef producers' needs. As we see so much discussion and policy making revolve around sustainability matters, I believe that in ranching we have the most marketable product out there. Our cows are outdoing what other forms of ruminants have done in our Canadian prairie landscapes for thousands of years. Yes, many of our management systems, mine included, could always be better in mimicking those grazing habits that are so beneficial to our grazing lands. But that work continues. Those grazing management plans are always limited by cost and time. But with greater government and public recognition of the valuable ecosystem services being provided by having cattle on the landscapes comes more opportunities for our sector. Organizations like MBP and many others are committed to advancing these opportunities with decision makers. And an editor's note, the President's column has been reprinted with permission from the Manitoba Beef Producers. Grain Growers of Canada kick off National Grain Week with call for support of Bill C-234 submitted. To mark the start of National Grain Week, the Grain Growers of Canada, GGC, urges all political parties to support Bill C-234, an amendment to the Greenhouse Gas Pollution Pricing Act. This amendment seeks to extend the exemption for qualifying farming fuel and to marketable natural gas and propane, which would fuel innovation and benefit Canadian farmers. As we gather in Ottawa for National Grain Week, we're reminded of the crucial role that Canadian farmers play in feeding our country and the world, said Andre Harp, GGC chair. By extending the exemption for qualifying farming fuels to natural gas and propane, this amendment will unlock innovation and drive sustainable growth in the sector. We urge all political parties to support this important legislation and demonstrate their commitment to the needs of the Canadian farmer. Farmers incur a carbon price when using natural gas and propane for necessary farming practices, such as grain drying, land irrigation, and heating or cooling their barns. As there are no viable alternatives, pricing these activities does not provide a signal to lower emissions from their sources. Bill 234 will allow farmers to invest in practices that drive innovation and new efficiencies that reduce fuel usage by putting money back in their hands. C-234 is a cornerstone of our work this week, Harp said. Unlocking innovation is key to achieving sustainability in agriculture. Carbon surcharges on necessary farm activities only add to the financial strain and divert capital away from critical investments. During National Grain Week, GGC members from across the country gather in Ottawa to share their diverse experiences and perspectives with the parliamentarians. GGC is bringing together farmer members, parliamentarians, and legislators to discuss and promote policies that align with the federal government's goals and the sector's unique needs and opportunities. Finished cattle prices set new highs by Sean Kabuk, Manitoba Agriculture. According to Canfax's latest marketing, Canadian fed cattle prices rallied to new historic highs during the week ending March 17th. Active Alberta fed trade saw dress prices surging $6 per hundredweight higher than the previous week at $348 delivered. Average steer prices were $4 higher than the previous week at $270.9, and both steer and heifer prices have now surpassed record highs as set back in 2015. Ontario fed prices also surged to new record highs this week, with steers and heifers averaging $211.59 and $209.34 respectively. March has been impressive for the non-fed market, cull cows and bulls. Over the past 3 weeks, D2 cow prices have rallied $18.50 per hundredweight, while butcher bulls have increased $4. Both butcher cow and bull values are at the highest points since September 2015. Since the beginning of the year, butcher cow prices have rallied 41%. This is the largest first quarterly in over 15 years. From a regional perspective, year to date, cow slaughter in Western Canada is 18% larger than last year, while Eastern Canadian cow slaughter is down 3%. Since the start of the year, calf prices are up $30 hundredweight higher and are up 70 to 90 over last year. Canfax is projecting 850-pound steers could be $3 per pound in the fall and fats $2.15 to $2.18 per pound based on cattle futures, the value of the Canadian dollar, and historic basic levels. Cattle on feed drops in the United States. In the USDA March 1st cattle on feed report, cattle on feed inventories declined 59,000 head from February to March. Cattle on feed inventories were 4% lower than last year and is the smallest March 1st on feed inventory since 2017. Feedlots continue to place themselves into tighter numbers, as this is the 6th consecutive month that placements have been below last year. Tighter cattle supplies will put additional pressure on the packing segment moving forward. In February, feedlot placements totaled 1.73 million head, 7% lower than last year. And optimizing nitrogen rates for dry beans, submitted by Manitoba Agriculture. And pictured is a field of dry beans as it nears maturity. In the Manitoba Pulse and Soybean Growers February Pulse Beat was a report on the results of edible bean fertility trials carried out in Portage and Carman. Dry beans are relatively poor nitrogen fixers, producing less than 45% of the nitrogen requirement on the average. Through biological nitrogen fixation, dry beans are typically fertilized like a non-legume crop with the application of nitrogen fertilizer at a rate of 70 pounds nitrogen per acre, a common practice, though this varies by region. Nitrogen uptake rates in dry beans range from 3.9 to 4.7 pounds nitrogen required per hundredweight of seed. Meanwhile, a 2,000 pound per acre dry bean crop could require 78 to 90 pounds of nitrogen per acre. This nitrogen may be derived from a combination of residual soil nitrogen, biological nitrogen fixation, and nitrogen fertilizer. 5 rates of nitrogen fertilizer, 0, 35, 70, 105, and 140 pounds of nitrogen per acre, were compared in windbreaker pinto beans and T9905 navy beans at Carman and Portage from 2017 to 2019. Nitrogen was applied at spring broadcast area and incorporated prior to planting dry beans. Residual nitrogen levels among site years ranged from 23 to 56 pounds nitrogen per acre at a 24-inch depth. The 2017 to 2019 growing seasons were dry and warm. This lack of soil moisture may have influenced nitrogen dynamics throughout this study. Reducing mineralization, inhibiting nodule development, and promoting root exploration to access deep nitrogen greater than 24 inches. Nodulation was slow overall, which is not surprising since the beans were not inoculated and sites did not have recent dry bean history. Dried bean yield was only significantly increased over the zero nitrogen control at the greatest rate of 140 pounds nitrogen, which boosted yield by 17%. The yields of the other nitrogen rates were no different from the control. However, yield was maximized at the lowest rate of nitrogen applied, 35 pounds nitrogen per acre, which was equivalent to 60 to 90 pounds of total nitrogen per acre as a combination of nitrogen applied and residual soil. Across multiple nitrogen costs and bean pricing scenarios, the return on investment was statistically similar for all rates of nitrogen application. This indicates that the economic optimum practice in these experiments was not applying nitrogen at all. Yield from the zero nitrogen control was exceptional, averaging 27 pounds per acre and resulting in 83% of maximum yield. Total nitrogen uptake in the zero nitrogen control was estimated to be 64 to 169 pounds per acre. Residual soil nitrogen would have only provided 23 to 56 pounds per acre, resulting in a deficit of 8 to 131 pounds per acre. Soil samples were taken post-harvest and found residual nitrogen levels in the zero nitrogen control ranging from 20 to 60 pounds per acre. This post-harvest surplus indicates nitrogen requirements of dry beans were met through a combination of biological nitrogen fixation, mineralization, and accessing deep nitrogen sources. Emerging guidelines from this research suggest that the full fertilization to meet the nitrogen requirements may not be necessary in Manitoba, and that biological nitrogen fixation is contributing to the nitrogen requirements of dry bean. In this study, non-fertilized, non-inoculated beans resulted in 83% of maximum yield. Applying the maximum nitrogen rate maximized yield was not economical. Applying nitrogen fertilizer at a rate of 35 pounds per acre, or to reach 70 pounds per acre of total nitrogen, matched maximum yield without reducing nodulation. And then the sights of the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair. Each year, the Winter Fair showcases Manitoba's premier indoor equestrian show. Competition starts early each day in both the Westoba Place main arena and Westoba Ag Center, with top little show jumping, hackney, and heavy horse events. And that photo is by John Drinkwater. And on the right, the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair is held annually during Manitoba's March spring break. The fair is one of Western Canada's largest agricultural events. Pictured, a large number of farmers and their animals attend the Royal Winter Fair to compete in the cattle shows. The photo is by Mike Waddell. And another photo by Mike Waddell. Doodles the Clown is one of the many entertainers featured at the Royal Manitoba Winter Fair. And moving on to Neepawa sports. Neepawa Figure Skating Club closes out year with Disney on Ice performances. The Neepawa Figure Skating Club hosts its year-end wind-up on Wednesday, March 22nd. This latest edition of the season-end show was themed around Disney on Ice, featuring many performances to a variety of songs used in Disney media. Above, members of Blades United, a regional synchro team, took to the ice for a landmark synchronized performance. Right, Claire Shepard maintains excellent balance as she glides on one skate past the camera. Below left, Claire Nicholson skates to Britney Spears' Hit Me Baby One More Time. Below right, Star Skate members make their way across the ice, shoulder to shoulder, as they perform to Be Our Guest from Beauty and the Beast. Bottom row, left, a junior Star Skate member performs seemingly effortless backwards glides during the Disney Princesses performance. Bottom right, Belle and Beast dance together. And far right, a junior starcater executes a well-balanced glide on one skate. And the photos are by Casper Warren. And the season ends for the Neepawa Titans by Owen Devereaux. The Neepawa Titans are starting up their off-season schedule a little bit earlier than they had hoped for. But while postseason play was not in the cards for this year, the leadership of the MJHL franchise still feel as they were on their cusp of something special going into next season. The Titans played their last regular season games against the Selkirk Steelers on March 17th and 18th, and ultimately closed out the year with a 22-27, 8-1 record. Those results were good enough for 53 points overall, a 3-win and a 6-point increase from the previous year. Neepawa was also in the thick of the playoff chase for almost the entirety of the schedule. For a large portion of the year, only a few points separated first from last place in the extremely competitive Western Division. Titans head coach and general manager Ken Pearson said while this gradual improvement is a step in the right direction, he understands if there is some disappointed in the end results. Pearson noted a slow start to the season, 3-7-3 in the first 13 games, compounded by several key injuries to high-impact players, put them in a deficit early. He added, however, the club started to turn things around after the roster was 100% healthy. As well, the addition of forward Briley Wood from the Western Hockey League made an immediate difference to the club's fortunes. One notable change as the season went on was seen in the power play, as it went from near the bottom of the league early on to the top 5 unit by the close of the season. Pearson stated that was something the players and his coaching staff worked hard on improving over the course of the year. For coaches at any level of play, the end of the hockey season simply means the beginning of planning for next season. Pearson said there will not be as much downtime as the Titans spring prospects camp is just around the corner. As for what the next roster could look like next year, Pearson said that several key contributors have already committed to returning. This will provide the Titans with an experienced and skilled core, which could mean another year-over-year improvement in the standings. Titans forward Briley Wood will have the chance to experience some postseason excitement this year. The 20-year-old Rivers product has been called by the Winnipeg Ice of the Western Hockey League. The Ice hold Wood's major junior player rights and are the favorite to win the WHL title. Winnipeg is the top-ranked team in the league overall with a 55-10-1 record in the season. The Western Hockey League playoffs begin on Friday, March 31st. For this year's version of the Neepawa Titans, there were 7 players who have aged out of their Junior A eligibility. Those players are John Blake, Cameron Trimble, Will Hyatt, Josh Romanek, Braden Michaelchuk, Camden Smith, and Dean Noonan. The Neepawa Titans thank those players for their dedication to this organization this season. And the Bombers beat Seahawks in overtime. Minnesota ties THHL Championship Series 1-1, and pictured goaltender Devin Fortis made 65 saves to help the Bombers hold off the Minnesota Elkhorn Seahawk and win 4-3 in overtime on Saturday, March 25th in Minnesota by Owen Devereaux. The Minnesota Bombers evened up their best-of-5 series with the Minnesota Elkhorn Seahawks over the weekend in dramatic fashion. Shane Jury scored on overtime on Saturday, March 25th, to tie the Tiger Hills Hockey League final at 1-1. Though Jury's goal is credited as a game winner, the performance between the pipes by Devin Fortis is the main reason the Bombers close out the night with the W. The former Prince George Cougars netminder made 65 saves during the game, her Herculean effort against the offensive onslaught showcased by the Seahawks. The goal scorers in the first period in play include Matt Saylor and a pair from Bryson Werbecky Mallet for the Bombers. Jason Bowles scored the lone goal for the Seahawks in the opening period to make it a 3-1 score. Shots on goal were 21-7 in favor of Minnesota Elkhorn after the first period concluded. While the second period would be scoreless, the number of scoring opportunities were actually plentiful, especially on the power play. Both teams were assessed multiple penalties through this scrappy 20 minutes of action. At one point, the Minnesota's penalty box was packed to capacity with 4 players in there at one time. Somehow, though, the score remained just 3-1, with the total shot sitting at 41-16 for Minnesota. In the third, the Seahawks tied the score at 3-3 with a pair of goals on the power play. First, Parker Johnson played his final season of Junior A eligibility just last year with the Verdun Oil Capitals, scored his 5th of the postseason. That was quickly followed by Dylan Stonehouse, an alumnus of the 2004-2005 Neepawa natives, to make it 3-3. Overtime would end quickly as Jury scored his 12th goal of the playoffs to give the Bombers and their hometown fans something to celebrate on Saturday night. In Game 1, played on Minnesota on March 24th, the Seahawks won 6-3. Jury Rebecca Mallet and Ricky Kowalik scored for Minnesota on that night. The remaining games of this best-of-5 series will be played this weekend. Game 3 will be in Minnesota on Friday, March 31st. Game 4 will be the next night back in Minnesota and will have a 7:30 p.m. start time. Game 5, if necessary, will return to Minnesota on Sunday, April 2nd. The Hearts of a Warrior. William Morton Collegiate JV girls basketball team celebrates successful season. And pictured is the team, the provincial A AA JV Girls Basketball Finalists 22-23. Submitted to the Neepawa Banner and Press. The William Morton Collegiate Junior Varsity Girls Basketball team had a bit of a slow start to the season, with the practices starting in mid-November. Luckily, half of the players on this team also play up on the varsity team, which has been practicing since mid-September, and this has helped to prepare and develop them at a faster rate than the JV program would. Since there are only 2 other teams within our Zone 7 league, Neepawa and McGregor, the girls had an exhibition game at the beginning of January to get the season started. The girls played at the Dauphin Clippers and were not expecting what they encountered. For the first-year players, this was the roughest basketball game they have ever played in. For the veterans, it was just a physically tough night. The veterans played very well and led the rookies along the way, eventually defeating Dauphin by a score of 45-29. The following week, the team started their league play by coming up against Neepawa and defeated the Tigers by a score of 53-19. The girls would have almost a week off to then face the McGregor Mustangs in their home gym. The girls had a tougher time with them and pressed throughout the game. However, McGregor stayed right with our girls and pushed them to the limit they had not seen this year yet. The girls would prevail and won the game by a score of 58-49. The girls had to unfortunately turn around in 2 days and go to McGregor to face their team again. The girls pushed through a physical McGregor team to outscore them in a low-scoring affair, 35-24. The girls now had their final regular season game against Neepawa in a week, with no other games, including any varsity games. The rest must have been the ticket, as the girls played the game of their lives. The girls not only were scoring as well, but making passes never seen before in games prior. The entire team was spreading the offense out, making it difficult for Neepawa to shut them down. With a beautiful passing, a superb shooting from most players, the girls scored the most points in any girls' game this season by a score of 69-9. Excuse me. The girls started February traveling to a tournament in Dauphin on February 10th and 11th. The girls went into this event with only 7 players and faced the number 5 seeded AA team from the PAW in their first game. The girls took control again with their press and defeated them by a score of 59-25. The next day, the girls would face off against Neepawa. The girls easily handled them again, as they did previously in their zone matches, winning 51-18. Unfortunately, with only 8 players to Dauphin's 13, our girls had to play back-to-back in their final game of this tournament. The exhausted girls would beat Dauphin by a score of 66-28 to win the tournament. The girls would have almost a week and a half off and then had to face the McGregor Mustangs in our home gym for the Zone 7 banner and the JV AA banner provincial qualifier. The girls came out pressing very well and played phenomenal defense in the first half, holding the Mustangs to only 9 points. However, McGregor started to find a way to score and close the gap on the girls. In the end, the girls would defeat them by a score of 49-36 to win the Zone 7 banner and earn their trip to the provincials in the PAW in mid-March. The girls journeyed north to the PAW on March 8th to participate in the AAA Provincial Championship. They would play their first game on March 9th against the Souris Sabres. The girls came out with a great defense, shutting down one of their key guards, Ivy Perkin, who had a solid game earlier in the day. The offense was spread out with many of the starting line scoring points in the win. Ella Koschel had 14 and Reagan Tykrub had 12 to lead the offense in a 53-29 win over Souris. Ella would pick up the game star in the first game that would advance the Warriors to the semifinals on Friday afternoon. In the semifinal, the Warriors would come up against the Toulon Saints. This team would play a different style of offense, with all 5 players playing wide on the perimeter. The Warriors had to adjust their defense to prevent the perimeter shooting of a couple of their players. Toulon did have an answer with solid defense led by Tegan Price, who stood tall in the 2-3 defense to block a large number of shots taken by the Warriors. As the game played on, the Warriors found a way to score on Toulon and won the game by a low score of 38-29. Karina Kuznikova led the Warriors with a 14, while Reagan Tykrub scored another 13 to help WMCI advance to their first JV provincial final. Saturday, March 11th, the finals would take place at 2 p.m. and the girls were full of nerves. The game would see 2 undefeated teams put their season AAA records on line by facing the Warren Wildcats. The girls got down in the first 5 minutes of play and trailed 9-4. It was at this point that the WMCI girls started to pick up numerous fouls, and the score quickly changed. By the end of the first quarter, the score would be 19-6 for Warren, and the fouls would be 12-6 for WMCI. The girls struggled to play defense with so many fouls, and a number of starters ran into foul trouble. The Warren team kept pushing the girls and ended up with a final score of 69-21 to win the provincial banner. Reagan Tycrob would pick up the game star for the final game. Unfortunately, Warriors could not match the speed and rebounding the Warren girls and would finish second in the province with a record of 16-1. Both Reagan Tycrob and Karina Kuznakova picked up provincial all-star awards for their great play over the 3 games. Coach Nemetchuk, Coach Koschel, and Coach Lang went on to congratulate the girls on a great season. And there are unfortunately a number of obituaries again, and I will highlight through them. Margaret Motas passed away March 7th, 2023 at 85 years age. No services planned. Iris Beyer, born February 1st, 1928. Iris passed away August 23rd, 2022 at the age of 94. She was predeceased by her beloved husband, Roman Beyer, parents Robert and Mary Robert, sisters Winnie Conover and Joan Thomas, brother Frank Robert, brothers-in-law Ron Thomas, Don Conover, and Peter Kamarchuk, sister-in-law Olga Young, nephew Tim Perry, and niece Yvonne Down. She leaves to mourn her passing her nephews and nieces and great-nieces and many other nieces and nephews, cousins, and friends. She was born in Glenborough and immediately introduced the enchanting farm, which is now known as Spruce Woods Provincial Park. Together, her mother and father cleared scores of wooded acres with 2 horses, planted fields, vegetable gardens, and fruit trees. And Iris maintained her dad's trap lines, but their idyllic farm life was not all work. The growing sense of humor and spunk, Iris and a friend once pushed a cow halfway through the front door of a bad neighbor's house, where it remained stuck for a good long time. Iris soon met her true love, the handsome and humorous Romy Beyer, and she married him on June 11th, 1952. They were a perfect example of a loving couple and lived their lives to the fullest. Golf, curling, and stock market enthusiasts, world travelers, and many a pleasant evening spent with friends. And known for her quick-witted humor, fierce determination, Iris continued her family's hard work ethic in managing Ricky's Ladies' Wear stores in Manitoba, Saskatchewan, and Alberta. And Deborah Ann Stewart Bjarnson. Debbie Stewart passed away peacefully March 24th, 2023, with her family by her side at Gladstone Health Centre. Debbie was born September 13, 1956 in Gladstone and was the 3rd child of Marland and Jean Stewart. She was raised on a family farm in the Golden Stream area and attended Golden Stream School from grades 1 to 6, and then attended grades 7 and 8 in the Gladstone Elementary School, and her high school education at William Morton Collegiate. She attended the University of Manitoba and graduated with a bachelor's degree in social work. In 1979, Debbie accepted a position as a child protection worker with the Children's Aid Society of Central Manitoba. Afterwards, she worked at the Legion Clubroom, a hardware store, and the Happy Rock Daycare before returning to work at Child and Family Services. In 1981, she married Leon Bjornson of Steelbridge, and they resided on a farm north of Gladstone. In 1988, they welcomed daughter Janine. In 2001, Debbie purchased a home in Gladstone where she lived with her daughter Janine. She was active in the community, member of the Ag Society for over 10 years and president for a period of time, was a member of the Palliative Care Committee and did canvassing for a number of charities. She was also an active member of the Gladstone Church and sang in the choir. She enjoyed many activities, including crocheting, cross-stitching, baking, preserving fruits and vegetables, painting, and visiting her many friends and loved ones. And also, Traylon native Joseph Ranke Flaming, April 16th, 2006 to February 14th, 2023. Traylon was born on a beautiful Easter Sunday to Annie Ranke and Arlen Flaming in Brandon. He spent his whole life in Neepawa area, attending school at HMK and NACTV. He participated in several sports and activities, and found he had a talent for archery. He threw himself into practicing and enjoyed competitions with his dad. He was artistic and imaginative, and able to create just about whatever he set his mind to. He discovered a love for all things mechanical and spent countless hours leaning over the engine of some vehicle. He leaves many people who cherish his memory. Also, and his parents, his sister, his grandparents, and his many aunts, uncles, cousins, and friends. He was laid to rest March 3rd in Rosedale Cemetery. A big thank you to the Whites Funeral Home and Rita Friesen and the men from KK Penner who acted as pallbearers. And friends, Carrie Wright and friends for providing a delicious lunch. And to Grandpa Nelson, who poured so much love into building the casket. And thank you to families and friends. And on a different note, Frida Oswald is celebrating her 105th birthday on April 7th. Happy birthday. And a mystery item stumps its buyer, a local reader. Leona Kuchar of Neepawa brought in this photo from the Our Canada magazine recently. The photos and information had been given to Our Canada by Robert Stard of Hudson, Ontario. He bought the metal contraption display in his woodshot along with several other objects. The word Neepawa is stamped on one side, while patent December 7th, 1920 is stamped on the other. When fully extended, it measures 29 by 9 by 5 inches in height and 20 by 23 by 5 inches in width. Neither the seller nor Star's friends were able to identify it. Kuchar loves history and wonders if anybody knows what this piece of equipment is used for and what the connection to Neepawa might be. If any of our readers have information, please contact the Neepawa Banner and Press. And pictured is Roper Gallery, Mayor of Gladstone in 1907. And this is featured in Gladstone's Glory Years booklet. And weather's fine for fishing at Lake Irwin. People in the area are making fine use of the early spring weather this weekend. Visitors came to Lake Irwin seeking some fresh catches. The 10th annual Lake Irwin Classic Ice Fishing Derby was also hosted last week. The pictures here are some of those the Neepawa Wildlife Association shared on or had submitted to their social media. Left, the catch measured 75 centimeters. And right, a participant of the Lake Irwin Classic stands with her catch. And that is the news for Friday, March 31st, 2023. And thank you so much for listening.